Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is the Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Shabbat class. Close out the Sabbath, 6th of April, 2024. We're going to pick up reading from out of the book of Ezra for our topic for discussion. We'll be reading First Ezra, chapters 3 and 4. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have a lot of videos that you can look at and examine. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for those that want to support the channel, you got a cash app at the bottom of the screen. It'll be greatly appreciated. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance. And the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts. And shalom and welcome to the channel. Okay, welcome to our evening Shabbat class. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, evening Shabbat prayer. We'll read the Psalms and do some current events, some need-to-know information. We'll open it up for some questions and comments, and then we'll go into our reading out of First Ezra. Okay. So with that being said, I want to say this moment of silence is for our Redeemer, Lord of Hosts, and Creator Yahweh, and all that they're doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance of these from our oppressors in these last days. Oh Lord, we come this day, bow down, honoring you and praising you and believing in you. And we thank you for your wisdom and knowledge that you have poured out upon us. And through your prophets, you have revealed the times that we are, as Jacob's children, would endure. Keep us, O Lord, and guide us and deliver us. We see you now within the Holy Scriptures, and we trust you, O Lord, with all our heart and all our soul. Keep not thy silence any longer, but shine forth on our enemies with thy great power and thy great glory. Peace be unto you. Okay? With that being said, I'm going to read Psalms. Okay? I'll read Psalms 28. It's a prayer for God's help. Psalm of David. It says, unto thee will I cry, O Lord, my rock, or be not silent to me, lest if you be silent to me, I become like them that go down into the pit. Hear the voice of my supplications when I cry unto thee, when I lift up my hands toward thy holy oracles. Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief in their hearts. Give them according to their deeds and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the works of their hands. Render to them their desert, because they regard not the works of the Lord, nor operations of his hand. He shall destroy them and not build them up. Blessed be the Lord, because he hath heard the voice of my supplication. The Lord is my strength and my shield, and my heart trusted in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoiced, and with my song will I praise him. The Lord is their strength, and he is the saving strength of his anointed. Save thy people and bless thine inheritance. Feed them also and lift them up forever. So we see right here, like I said before, verse 9 shines the light on who it is that we're dealing with, because it says, save thy people and bless thine inheritance. So when you understand breakdown of what the word inheritance means, it means to receive something, right? So we know that Yahweh is, you can't give him nothing. He can only be issuing out things. He can't receive nothing because everything is his. So whoever this is that's over Israel, that David is worshiping and praising, he received Israel from the Lord. So Yahweh can't be giving something to himself. He's giving this to somebody else. And like I said, we know who this Lord of Hosts is. We know who it is. It's the Lord of Hosts. We need one more verse to make these dots. Isaiah 44. Okay. 44 says, 44:6. Thus says the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts. I am the first, and I am the last. Besides me, there's no God. So, like I said, you got a conjunction there. You got two different beings you're dealing with. Thus says the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer. So, way back in Isaiah, we already see who the Redeemer is. We don't need nobody to come. Got a Redeemer right here. Like I said, this who came in and delivered Shadrach when the little goat. This who delivered Rebecca from Amalek. From Abimelech, and this who delivered came to Abraham. Came to Adam and God in the cool of the day. When you write the divine scripture, okay. So with that being said, go to some current events. She's acting up. Okay.
Heard about just some of this stuff. We heard about the ruling that a judge made that said the illegals are allowed to have guns. The illegals are allowed to have guns. They have Second Amendment rights in a country they're not from, but they do. We just got past the nor'easter that hit a big chunk of the country. Heavy rain, snow, wind, terrible. That's why that lightning hit the Statue of Liberty. That was during the nor'easter that we just got out of. All right, I'm not even done yet. We heard about the cancer in the royal family, Kate Middleton. We already knew about King Charles, but Kate Middleton, we heard about her having, you might as well say the U.S. royal family has fallen. They're not coming back from this at all. Putin announced that he opened up his vaults and showed us images of a black Jesus and saints.
Okay.
Jesus and the saints were black. So that happened, right? This is all stuff leading up to, we haven't even gotten to the eclipse yet. All right. And then we had the Pope, for the first time, skip completely over Palm Sunday and just did regular mass. He didn't even acknowledge Palm Sunday, which is absolutely unheard of. But he did. We know about the Haitians and all the turmoil and them fleeing over here to America. We heard about that. We heard about the Tyson replacing all of their American workers, and they brought in all of those illegal immigrants to replace them. We heard about the sacrifice of the red heifer. Y'all heard about that too. The sacrifice of the red heifer. That is something that's been out there for the last few days. And there was something else. Oh, the Congressional Black Caucus, which I did yesterday, has come up with what they call a Black Agenda. And I went over that yesterday. It's nothing but a bunch of programs, y'all. That's all. That's all it is. It's a bunch of programs. So the Most High is busy. And y'all remember, there's going to be trillions of cicadas coming out of the ground. Some of them are already out the ground, but they are estimating trillions coming out of the ground. And remember, there's two broods, brood 1 and brood 2. So you got a 17-year cicada and a 13-year cicada coming out of the ground at the same time, which is absolutely unheard of. Usually you have one breed coming up, but not two coming out together. And remember, I told y'all the last time this occurred was in 1803, and Thomas Jefferson was the president. And they said a big bulk of them are going to be coming out of the ground during the eclipse. There's going to be a lot of them coming out at that moment. So I have not seen any yet. But where I am, we are supposed to see them and hear them. But y'all, they said it's going to be loud because it's so many of them coming up at once. And they're going to be plenty hungry, so they're going to be stripping down some trees and shrubberies out here. People may look at their trees and wonder what happened, but yeah, they're going to be eating everything. They come with a big appetite, y'all. They come with a big appetite. All right. So let's get into this story.
Okay. Anybody heard of any of these things on YouTube? No. Okay.
U.S. maritime supply routes and critical infrastructure changes that have nobody talking about the elephant in the room following this Francis Scott Key Bridge disaster, what this means for the U.S. economy, for trade, for inflation, how the U.S. has really two main ports of entry that have real major significance for our supply lines, too. That's it. One on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and one was just taken out of play for years. This should be the story. How this isn't is mind-boggling. Folks, something else is happening here. We're going to show you what we mean, what you need to know, how to begin preparing for the impact to the U.S. economy. We'll also look at if this was in fact an accident, like the media is saying, or if it's deliberate, as the ship didn't collide with any of the other 600,000 bridges in this country. Instead, it collided with the single most consequential bridge, the only bridge that will collapse the U.S. supply chain. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So let's start with this. What we just saw play out was one of the most consequential disasters on U.S. critical infrastructure in a very long time. The Francis Scott Key Bridge is not covering just any body of water, folks. This bridge collapse just blocked one of the busiest, really the most important port on the East Coast. The I-95 corridor on the eastern seaboard is what connects the north to the south. This is one of the most busiest, important supply chains in the United States, and it was just shut down indefinitely. The only other one that's busier is on the West Coast in California. We're going to show you what happened last time we saw congestion at one of these two ports. That happened during COVID, and we all know the result. We're still dealing with the effects of that, higher interest rates, inflation, etc. The entire U.S. economy has just been dealt a major blow, and it's bizarre, to say the least, that that side of the story isn't being covered. There's a reason why this port in Baltimore is one of the busiest in the country, because certain types of containers that carry hazardous materials come through this port. May have heard about that aspect on the news, how many of these containers that were on this ship were hazardous. Also, much of the fuels that are imported come through this port. We're talking diesels, nitrogen, chemicals that are like refined fuels, the type of materials that are needed to move an economy. Business Insider's reporting this port is now closed indefinitely. I'm hearing 3 to 5 years at the earliest. They'll need to basically build an entirely new bridge. Realize this isn't just the port of Baltimore that's compromised. Anyone who says, oh, well, these container ships can just be rerouted to New York or some other port, don't understand what's happening. This is also the trucking industry, the railroads, commuters. The I-95 corridor is now cut off from north to south, or vice versa. I-95 runs all the way from Miami to Canada, one of the busiest and most heavily trafficked interstates in the U.S., relied on to move and haul these containers above ground. These trucks are now going to have to reroute, go around Baltimore, and they shut down the sea passage for all the hazardous material loads. Here's Lara Logan, investigative journalist, explain what she's hearing from her DHS contacts. Watch this. Investigation telling you.
Well, I have a better question for you, Steve. Why are you coming to the mic telling the country that it's not when your own intelligence agencies are telling you it is? And I know they are, because I didn't make this up. These are not my words, right? I'm talking to people who are on the inside, some who are on active duty, some who are retired, and everyone, literally, from critical infrastructure in the Department of Homeland Security to the intelligence agencies, they know there's no other, this is a cyber attack on a critical infrastructure corridor for the United States. This is, for those people who think this is just a river, this is in Baltimore, what does this matter? You don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Now, what's so odd about this is how the media doesn't ask any questions. The NTSB, for instance, just began their investigation into what happened. How they can come out so quickly, basically within minutes, and say, oh, there's no bad actor responsible. It's just odd. For example, how did the entire bridge collapse within seconds, like it was held up by chopsticks? Well, this is where it gets interesting, scary, but interesting, because according to Dr. Sturgios Matoulis, head of the Structures Research Group, he says what happened here, the reason why the entire bridge just came down almost instantly, was how perfect the impact was, how if this ship would have hit.
Here are 3 reasons your sales team will actually want to use.
Else, it would have survived. But the fact that it hit one of the 2 main pylons, it had no chance, basically. Look at this. The bridge is 1.6 miles long. The ship collided on the bridge, and the pylon was not able to take the excessive collision dynamic load, and the bridge collapsed due to progressive collapse. Removing one support redistributes loads in the structure, akin to the way loads shift when standing on one leg. Thus, even though it might look as a disproportionate consequence, the pylon collapse would lead to entire bridge collapse in all cases. So what he's saying is, out of the 1.6 miles of bridge that ship happened to make impact with, it hit the one specific spot needed to take the entire thing down, the primary pylon that would lead to complete collapse 100% of the time. It's either very bad luck, terrible coincidence, or it was deliberate. A cyber attack, maybe the actors knew the specific location to make impact to cause the most damage. Again, here's Lara Logan explain what she's been told from her DHS source. Listen to this.
Okay, I want to go. You just had this big thing with the FBI talking about what the Chinese Communist Party's cyber hacking unit that they've been monitoring for 10 years, and now they're saying it's out of control. Are your sources telling you that they feel there's enough information out there that it is a cyber attack, and is it a state actor or non-state actors?
100%, yes. And they are saying that this is a cyber attack. You didn't have a terrorist group board the ship and commandeer it and take it over. You had somebody hack into the systems on board the ship, the GPS system, and reroute that ship. They did it in the middle of the night because they didn't want the crew to be awake. They didn't want everybody to be on full high alert. They wanted everybody to be asleep, and you trying to wake people up and rouse people, because when I spoke to one individual who has let's just say he worked in Baltimore for many, many years and was there when that bridge was opened. He knew when he looked at the security camera video of the harbor, the long version, the 7 minutes, he knew from the start of that video when he looked at that ship that it was not in the channel. You need to be in the channel to make that turn, to have any chance of making that turn. So now you're traveling. That is a river that flows pretty quickly, Steve, even under normal circumstances. Right? And at a certain point, you're committed. That ship is heavy, the load is heavy, the water going at a certain speed, you've got very little room to maneuver. So at a certain point, there was absolutely nothing that they could do to stop that ship from the course that it was on because they were not in control of it. And they had all of these other factors coming into play. That anybody could come out now when they haven't had time to do an investigation, when I know for a fact that they're getting people inside their agencies that are telling them what they're telling me, and they're making public statements that completely contradict what anybody who knows this terrain, who knows it, and I don't just mean the physical terrain, I mean the cyber terrain and the terrorism terrain and the critical infrastructure terrain and all of that.
Again, was this a cyber attack or some deliberate act? I have no idea. It could be what the media is saying, a complete accident, but the part that I'm having real trouble with is how nobody's reporting the economic damage that's in store because of this. I happen to know about this. I did a lot of research on our supply chains during COVID last year and saw what happens when you have congestion at these two main ports. One of them being on the East Coast, that being Baltimore, the other is on the West Coast. And if either of them begins to slow down, we see massive disruption. The effects ripple through the entire economy, like what you see here. Goldman Sachs tracks U.S. supply chain congestion for this reason, and any bottlenecks in container ships accessing these ports. If you look back in 2021, look what happened. Massive bottlenecks began appearing. That was all during COVID, of course, and that was around the same time when inflation began to spike, hitting around 9%, only months after that began. It took a long time for all this to get ironed out, for the supply chains to begin working normally again. So look, why the U.S. government publicly is stating there's no evidence of malicious intent around this bridge collapse before they've even investigated it. Again, NTSB just launched the investigation. How could they know that already? They can't. What they do know, however, is that an attack on U.S. critical infrastructure is an act of war. It's serious. It demands some type of official response, something that the Biden administration can't afford right now.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody got any comments?
Shalom, everyone. I was reading an article that said that the initial funding that the government is going to give Maryland, I guess, to start repairing this bridge was like $60 million. So, which is a lot of money. And yeah, I was reading that, and then it was the 9th largest port in the U.S. So there's a lot of cargo that goes through there.
There's a lot of coincidences going on with that. Was raise eyebrows, like he was saying, how they hit the very pylon that hit was the one that brought the whole thing down. It's like somebody had did their homework. And,
right.
Knowing that port and the one that's in I think it's California, if anything happened to it, the circumstances around it, the effects of it. It just so happened. It's the way everything happened. It's just something wrong. Something ain't right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else got any comments on that? So let's check this out right here. I thought this is pretty interesting. Okay.
Ethiopian Israeli Messianic Jew and asked him about all the talk surrounding the red heifers being shipped to Israel from America. And his answer kind of surprised me. Many religious Jews believe that the temple needs to be rebuilt in Jerusalem before the Messiah can return. And the red heifer cow is required for them to sacrifice and usher in this third temple period. And as we speak right now, there's a massive altar being prepared for the red heifer sacrifice ritual in Jerusalem. Now, I find it interesting that within many religious Jews, they believe they can help usher in the coming of the Messiah. And to illustrate this point, check out this moment from 1990, where the current Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, meets the legendary Rabbi Rebbe. This is the rabbi that we recently covered in our reaction to a Dr. Michael Brown video that many Jews believe to be the Messiah, and many were expecting him to rise after his death. So this is not their first encounter. And the rabbi makes this point to Benjamin Netanyahu. Listen closely. Since we last met, things have progressed. So many things have progressed. What hasn't changed, however, is that the Moshiach, the Messiah, still hasn't come. So do something to hasten this coming. We're doing. Apparently it's not enough. And notice Benjamin Netanyahu's entire demeanor on his face change as he's getting pressed about not doing enough to hasten the Messiah coming. Since many hours already passed today, it's still not here. There are still a few hours left in the day. So try still for today. Wow. So this red heifer sacrifice to help.
Okay.
This finance prodigy torched his.
To help usher in the rebuilding of the temple is a way that they are trying to hasten their Messiah to come. And I sat down with a Messianic Jewish friend of mine from Israel to get his take on the red heifer prophecy. But first, guys, my name is Ruslan, and this channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire you to live a life that blesses God. If you're new here, if you're not new here, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. We reach over 1 million unique monthly viewers on this channel, and unfortunately, a huge percentage of you guys are not subscribed. Okay, let's get into my conversation with Emmanuel Roro. Emmanuel Roro is an interesting guy. He served in the military. He's an Ethiopian Jew that became a Christian, and he's also a widely known worship leader, not just in Israel, but beyond. He's traveled to places like Brazil, and he was recently here in America doing a tour of different worship events. All right, let's jump into this conversation. There's videos going around that are going super viral of the red heifers being raised up to be shipped over to Israel. To right, you're seeing some of this stuff. What do you make of that in terms of the connection to this being an end times pre-eminent thing, or the course? What do you think of that stuff? So, and are you keeping up with the red heifer stuff?
Yeah, a little bit. I've heard of it. The fact that Israel exists right now, people, Jewish believers seeing their Messiah, Yeshua, as a savior, is like something that really given an alert of like, oh, something we're end times vibes. But I see what happened October 7th really changed and shift the atmosphere in Israel. I hope that, and I'm praying that God will use that to bring people, more people in Gaza, all over the region, especially in Israel, to know Him, because people lost hope. And I found my hope again in Yeshua, in Jesus, because I had where to look up. Many people don't have where to look up, but we offer Jesus as, He is the real hope for humanity. And I think that when we'll start seeing more Jewish people, coming to faith, and I'm also understanding that when a lot of Christians will show their love to Israel and just show their love to their Jewish Messiah and cause them jealousy, and then cause their hearts to turn back to Jesus and see, oh, this is our brother, this is our firstborn brother. That's where I think Jesus is coming back, because Jesus said, until you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, who won't be back. So it's like a key to His return in their salvation.
So you're expecting revival in Israel, turning back to the Messiah before He returns.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So I think the tough part is people seem to struggle because Christians tend to have a heart for Israel because of some of the end times prophecy. Israel being established as a nation and winning all these wars, that's not a miracle. Anyone that knows the history. Tough part is, how does someone balance being for Israel without necessarily giving Israel a blank check to do whatever they want? and which can change depending on who's in power and what coalition and what people this, you know what I mean? People have to appeal to. Like, how do you balance that tension? And or how should we as Christians that you know, hey, I think Israel should exist. I think Israel has, you know, I don't think the church has replaced Israel, right? I think that God still has a plan for Israel, to Jewish people. However, that doesn't mean I endorse everything that is happening in every military operation, but that's how you'll kind of get placed in society, right? So I'll just say, hey, I think Israel has a right to exist, and I think they need to defend themselves and prevent future attacks. However, I don't know about all the military operations. Some of this stuff seems a little heavy-handed, you know. It maybe seems super sus and sketchy to me, you know. So how can we detangle some of that?
I believe that's what I see. This is right now what's happening is like, you're either for Israel or you're not for Israel. You cannot be somewhere, you know, you cannot be, but the reality is not black and white. The reality is that some things happen. Yes, in general, yes, I'm from Israel. Yes, I'm praying for the nation of Israel. Yes, I'm praying for the peace of Jerusalem. I'm praying for revival in Israel. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna give them, like you said, a black check, do whatever they want. Because like, be able to watch, you know, like some people have like one stream of news where they see everything, and just their opinion is based on that. But it's like the news always fluctuates and change and everything. And one day they're in the beginning of October 7th, Israel was 2 months later, no, they have no, you know, they cannot do anything. So it's like always going back to the source, to the Bible, to the scriptures, and always remind myself, like, try to put the glasses of not the physical reality of what I see, like the spiritual reality, what God is doing.
Talk a little bit about the viral video some people have seen, and then they kind of use that to create this blanket that all Israelis are anti-Christian. Unpack that, and who's doing that, what groups are doing that, and give us a bit more context on that.
It probably was, I've seen that video, it's like kids, like spitting on some Christians walking, because they basically believe that they do something like kind of sorcery, but that's a small group, you know, that's extreme, really extremist. And I've experienced that. We had on June, end of May, where the worship night in Jerusalem was open to all whoever wants to come. Worship night for God in Hebrew, is what we do. And then to that worship night, many ultra-Orthodox Jews came, and the extreme anti-missionaries parties that came, and they blocked the entrance. And they're like pushing them, like people, moms with children, that want to enter and worship, and they're like pushing them like,
okay, I've got a problem that I'm pretty sure you can help me with.
Like, missionaries don't enter, yada, yada, yada. It's like, there's a pushback, but when they come with the groups and they take usually kids that don't understand and try to, you know, push them back on you. But usually when you talk one-to-one to people, and it's more reasonable that we understand when you talk everything. Of course, we agree to disagree, but
yeah. So it's not as prevalent as we see on the internet. Meaning, so okay. So hypothetically, say we did an event in Israel. Say I came. Say Pastor Jeff came. You led worship, and we did like a one-day event. Do you think there would be pushback?
From what I see and experience, Israel is a free country. You can express your faith, no matter if you're a Jew, Muslim, Christian. You can do and express your faith. Of course, if you are doing something that is very publicized to Israelis and stuff, there are some organizations that are actually anti-missionary in Israel.
Anti-missionary.
Anti-missionary organizations, but you know they won't be able to stop you because the law is for you. You know, the police, you know, the police will come and basically will defend the event. We'll be able to do that.
Yeah. But there might be some protests.
Yeah, protests.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So how do you see this situation being resolved in terms of Hamas? Where do you think this is going? And what do you think like the next 6 months to a year is going to look like?
Not for me to say, because right now we are in a moment that is really unclear. Like if you ask me like 2 months ago, I would like think that Israel finished the job. And I hope that it won't escalate to the northern border. This is what I really think till now is like it won't escalate to the northern border because it would be nasty if it will. But right now in Gaza, I don't really know if they'll be able. I hope. I'm just praying for the hostages to come back home. You know, it's like God to set those people free. Like I believe that God can do it even more than any politician or any military or anything else. it's hard to say, but I'm hoping and I'm praying this thing will be resolved. At least the hostages will come back home, and we will try to build something.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. I got some need to know information right here. I'm gonna play that, and then okay. Well, I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions, comments about this morning or Friday night or last week, or anything they was doing on research? Okay. Okay, so we just reading out of this is our evening Shabbat class. We usually do it about an hour to close out the Shabbat, and I'll be reading out of First Ezra in a minute. I'll be reading chapters 3 and maybe chapter 4, but we're just doing some current events. Opening up for some Q&A. We non-Messianic. We don't deal with the New Testament. So yeah. So we just like I said, every Saturday evening, we close our Shabbat out for about an hour, from 6 till 7. And right now we're dealing with we got Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything? Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments from this morning or last night or doing their research? Okay. I'm gonna play this here, then I'm gonna start reading out of Shabbat. I'm gonna start reading out of the Apocrypha. I thought this was kind of interesting. Just play a little bit of it.
Today, I want to talk about an article that you just published today in the International Man, which I'll include in the links below. Everyone, if you're not a subscriber to International Man, you definitely should be. There's lots of great content there, not only stuff that Doug writes, but other great writers as well. So, but you covered a topic that I've heard rumors about for months. First, I heard about it from some of our viewers, actually, and that's about this site called Beagle.com. And their forecast for population changes, massive population changes in 2025. And first of all, how did it get on your radar? How did this even topic get on your radar?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was that introduced me to this Deagle website. I'd never heard of Deagle before, but I did go on their website, and they're basically what they do is they track the economies of different countries in the world, about 200, most of them actually, almost all of them, but mainly their military capabilities. So they're in some ways competitive with James, which has been around for decades and is the well-known company when it comes to tracking military.
Okay.
Weapon systems, what they can accomplish, how much they cost, all this type of thing. So it's, I guess Deagle's kind of a big deal, but it's not well promoted or well known like James is. I can't remember.
Well, they had this thing on their website that basically predicted population levels in virtually every country in the world in 2025. Now, this is no longer on their site. They took it off, and you can find it in the Internet Archive, and I'll try and include a link to it in the description of this video as well. But that's the part that kind of stuck out most to you and that you were addressing in the article in International Man.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking. They list the countries of the world and give their current population and current GDP, and then what they project is population and GDP in 2025. And this just isn't the usual draw a straight ruler from, 2% compounded or something. They project that the US population falls 50%, 70%, huge number like that. Same with Western Europe, same with Canada, And I think the same with Australia and New Zealand. I can't recall, I'm not looking at it now. But interestingly, it's only the Western world that suffers this huge population drop. All of the countries of the world, if you look at them on this, they all suffer significant population drops, but generally in the 5 to 10 to 15% area, not 50 to 70%, the way North America and Europe will. So their explanation as to why this may be, at least what they published on the site, was kind of general. There's a reference to, well, I imputed, you're looking at a biological war, which would obviously be the best way to take out huge numbers of people, but also as a reference to a possible famine evidencing itself in the world.
Because we're talking about a decline in the U.S. of something like...
But not a conventional war.
I mean, the decline in the U.S. is something like a reduction of, for 70% of the population, that'd be like 200 million people, right? Something like that. I mean, it's a massive...
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is catastrophic. It would be the biggest thing in world history, because it's not just North America, it's going to be Europe too. And but they don't have any explanation. It would have been nice if they had an essay explaining, well, exactly how do you come up with these figures, based on what? I mean, when I first saw this...
Yeah, that conversation is kind of weird to me. I don't know about nobody else, but you want to check out all of it. It's Doug Casey's Take. That's the name of the web channel. And it's episode 114. So in so many ways, listening to that, it's telling you that something serious is going to happen between now and in 2025 that's going to cause, like he said, millions of people to be deleted off the planet. So, okay, it sounds like war to me, some kind of nuclear change. But you can check it out. So, anybody have any comments on that before I start reading? Anybody got a take on that? Okay. Yeah, so I was, this morning I was reading out of First Ezra, the Apocrypha, the complete 54 book Apocrypha. I'm going to pick it up in chapter 3, First Ezra. Okay, it says, now King Darius made a great feast to all his subjects and to all that were born in his house, and to all the princes of Media and Persia, and to all the local governors and captains and governors that were under him, from India to Ethiopia, in the 127 providences. That's what I was explaining this morning, that between these 127 providences, all 12 tribes are there under their command, under their control. You got Judah and Benjamin in Shushan in the Chaldean province, and then you got the 10 tribes over in the Syrian province. They all under the control of this King Darius, and they was under control of Cyrus when he came on the scene. So it says when they had eaten and drunken and being satisfied, and had gone and were gone home, then Darius the king went in to his bedchamber and slept, and awoke out of his sleep. Then the 3 young men of the bodyguards that kept the king's person spoke to one another, let each of us say one thing which would be strongest, and he who sentenced will seem wiser than the other. Let me get that. The story is so small. Say small, whose sentence will seem wiser than the others. To him, Darius the king will give great gifts and great honor in tokens of victory. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but this is the story about the 3 bodyguards. And when you understand who Zerubbabel is, Zerubbabel is one of these bodyguards. And Zerubbabel is out of the lineage of David. Okay, so it says, as to be clothed in purple, and to drink in gold, and to sleep on gold, and a chariot with bridles of gold, and a turban of fine linen, and a chain around his neck. And he will sit next to the Darius because of his wisdom. And when he and will be called cousin of Darius. And then they each wrote his sentence and set to their seals and laid the writings under the pillow of King Darius and said, when the king is risen, some will give him the writings, and of whose side the king and the three princes of Persia will judge that the sentence is the wisest. To him will the victory be given, as it is written. And the first wrote, wine is the strongest. The second wrote, the king is the strongest. And the third wrote, women are the strongest. But above all things, truth bears away the victory. Now, when the king was arisen up, they took the writings, gave it to him, and so he read it. And ascending out, he called all the princes of Persia and Media, and the local governors, and all the captains, and the governors, and the chief officers. And he sat down in the royal seat of judgment, and the writings was read before them. And he said, call the young men, and they were explained their sentences. So they were called and came in, and they said to them, declare to us your mind concerning these things you have written. Then began the first, who had spoken of the strength of wine, and said, O Lord, how exceedingly strong is wine. It causes all men to err that drink it. It makes the mind of the king and the fatherless child to be all one, of the bondman and of the free man, of the poor man and of the rich. It also turns every thought into cheer and mirth, so that a man remembers neither sorrow nor death, and it makes every heart rich, so that a man remembers neither king nor local governor, and it makes all things to speak by talents. And when they are in their cups, they forget their love both to friend and to relatives, and a little after draw their swords. But when they are awake from their wine, they do not remember what. Okay. Page stuff, man. They do not remember what they have done. Oh Lord, is not wine strong as seen that it enforces to do so. And when he had so spoken, he held his peace. Okay, chapter 4. Then the second, that he had spoken of strength of the king, began to say, O lords, do men not excel in strength, that bear rule over the sea and over land, and all things in them? But yet is the king stronger, and he is their Lord, and his dominion over them, and in whatever he commands them, they obey him. If he commands them to make war, the one against the other, they do it. And if he sends them out against the enemy, they go and overcome mountains, walls, and towers. They kill and are slain, and still do not transgress the king's command. If they get the victory, they bring everything to the king, as well as the plunder, as everything else. Likewise, for those that are not soldiers and have nothing to do with the wars, but are forming, when they have again reaped that which they had sown, they bring it to the king and compel one another to pay a tribute to the king. And he is but one man. Okay? For he commands to kill, they kill. If he commands to spare, they spare. If he commands to strike, they strike. If he commands to make desolate, they make desolate. If he commands to build, they build. If he commands to cut down, they cut down. If he commands to plant, they plant. So all his people and his armies obey him. Furthermore, he lies down, he eats and drinks and takes his rest. And these keep watch over him. Neither may anyone depart or do his own business, neither do they disobey him in anything. O Lord, how shall the king not be strongest, seeing that in such sort he is obeyed, and held his peace. Then the third, okay, a minute. Okay, says, get this. Okay. It says, then the third, who has spoken of women and the truth, this was Zerubbabel, began to speak. O lords, is not the king great, and men are many, and wise and wine is strong? Who is it then that rules them, or has the lordship over them? Are they not women? Women have become the king, and all the people that bear rule by sea and by land. Even from them they came, and they nourished them up and planted the vineyards, and from where the wine comes. These also make garments for men. These bring glory to man. And without woman, men cannot be. Yes. And if men have gathered together gold and silver and any other attractive thing, and see a woman which is attractive in favor and in beauty, they let all these things go and stare after her, and even with open mouth fix their eyes fast on her, and they have all the more desire for her than gold and silver or any other attractive thing. A man leaves his own father that brought him up in his own country and joins with his wife, and with his wife he ends his days and remembers neither father nor mother nor country. By this also you must know that women have dominion over you. Do you not labor and toil and give and bring all to the woman? Yes, a man takes his sword and goes out to make excursions and to rob and to steal and to sail on the sea and on the rivers, and looks on a lion and walks in the darkness. And when he has stolen, plundered, and robbed, he brings it to his love. For that reason, a man loves his wife better than father or mother. Yes, there are many that have run out of their wits for women and became bondsmen for their sake. Many have also perished, have stumbled and sinned for women. And now, do you not believe me? Is the king not great in his power? Do all regions not fear to touch him? Yet I saw him and his king's concubine, a page, whatever the word is, the daughter of the illustrious Bardicus, sitting at the right hand of the king and taking the crown from his head, king's head, and sitting on her head. Yes, she struck the king with her left hand, and immediately the king stared and gazed on her with open mouth. If she laughed on him, he also laughed. But if she took any displeasure at him, he was glad to be flattered, that she might be reconciled to him again. O Lord, how can it be but women should be strong, seeing they do so? Then the king and the nobles looked on one another, so he began to speak concerning truth. O Lord, are women not strong, great in the earth, high in the heavens? Swift is the sun in their in his course, for he encircles the heavens around and fetches his course again to his own place in one day. Is he not great that makes these things? Therefore, great is truth, stronger than all things. All the earth calls on truth, and the heavens blesses her. All works shake and tremble. but with her is no unrighteous thing. Wine is unrighteous, the king is unrighteous, women are unrighteous, all the children of men are unrighteous, and all such as work of theirs are unrighteous, and there is no truth in them. In their unrighteousness also they will perish. But truth remains and is stronger forever. She lives and conquers forevermore. With her there is no accepting of person or reward, but she does the things that are just and refrains from all unrighteous and wicked things, and all men do well like of her works. Neither is any unrighteous in her judgment, and she is strength and the kingdom and the power and the majesty of all ages. Blessed is the God of truth. And with that he held his tongue, and all the people then shouted and said, Great is truth, and strong above all things. Then the king said to him, Ask what ye will more than the appointed in the writings, and we will give it to you, insomuch as you are found wisest. And you will sit next to me, and I will be called my cousin. Then he said to the king, Remember your vow, which you vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when you came to your kingdom, and to send away all the vessels that were taken out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart. And when he vowed to destroy Babylon and vowed to send them there again, you also vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judah was made desolate by the Chaldeans. And now, O King, Lord of, and now, O Lord of the King, this is that which I request and which I desire of you, and this is the princely generosity that I will proceed from you. I pray, therefore, that you make good the vow, the performance of which you have vowed to the King of the heaven with your own mouth. Then Darius the king stood up, kissed him, and wrote letters for him to all his treasurers and governors and captains and local governors, and they should safely bring on their way both him and all those that should go up with him to build Jerusalem. He also wrote letters to all the governors that were in Syria and Phoenicia, and to them in Libanus, that they should bring cedar wood from Libanus to Jerusalem, and that they should build a city with him. Moreover, he wrote for all the Jews that should go out of his realm up into Jewry concerning their freedom, that no officer, nor governor, nor local governor, nor treasurer should forcibly enter into their doors, and that all the countries which they occupied should be free to them without tribute, and that the Edomites should give over the villages of the Jews which they then held, and that there should be yearly given 20 talents to the building of the temple until the time it was built, and then more talents yearly for burnt offerings to be presented on the altar every day, as they had commanded to offer 17, and that to all those who should come from Babylonia to build a city should have their freedom. They as well as their posterity and all the priests that came. He also wrote to give them their charges and the priests' vestments wherein they ministered. And for the Levites, he wrote that their charges should be given them until the day that their house was finished and Jerusalem built up. And he commanded to give all that kept the city lands and wages. He also sent away all the vessels from Babylon that Cyrus had set apart, and all that Cyrus had given in command, he also charged to be done, and he sent it to Jerusalem. Now, when this young man had gone out, he lifted up his face to heaven toward Jerusalem, and he praised the King of heaven and said, From you comes victory, and from you comes wisdom, and yours is the glory, and I am your servant. Blessed are you who have given me wisdom, and to you I give thanks. O Lord, our fathers, and Lord of our fathers. And so he took the letters and went out and came to Babylon and took it to all his countrymen, and they praised the God of their fathers because he had given them freedom and liberty to go up and to build Jerusalem and the temple which he called by his name, and they feasted with instruments of music and gladness for 7 days. So that was chapters 3 and 4, First Ezra. Anybody got any idea of what I was reading? Any comments on it? No comments? Well, like I said before, Daniel 9:25, they tell you that that was Jesus in Daniel 9:25, but in fact it was Zerubbabel, right? He was out of the lineage of David through Jeconiah that Nebuchadnezzar came. He took him to Babylon, but he took all his wives, his mothers, all his servants with him because the Lord got a covenant with David that he's going to preserve. He always going to keep a seed preserved to be on his throne. So the 70 years they was in Babylon, Jeconiah went first. Then Jeconiah had Sethel. Then Sethel had Zerubbabel. But at the time of the 70 years was up, he was one of those bodyguards that I just read about. And so when he got to the point that he won the contest to see who was the wisest, King Darius asked him, "What do you want? I'll grant any request that you want." So him being out of the seat of David, him being the king, he told him he wanted to go back to Jerusalem, like he had vowed, and build Jerusalem up. So like I said before, now you would understand why this is over here, because they didn't give you another Messiah, JC. So they took this out of the scripture, so you won't know that. Because that's the Messiah that's in Daniel 9:25. So like I said, after he won the contest, and he gave them the letters and for all the Jews that was in his realm to go back to Jerusalem, he went out and went to his countrymen and told them what had happened. And then just like with Noah, he told them the flood was coming. 6 days, he told them to round the animals up. 6 days, he rounded the animals up. The 7th day, then the flood came right here. Zerubbabel got the decree to go back and to rebuild Jerusalem. So he went and feasted with his countrymen 6 days. And the 7th day, he came back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. And somebody had never heard this before, would probably blown their mind, but yeah, Zerubbabel. So how did he get back? On a donkey. Who was with him? Zechariah. Haggai and Zechariah. So when you go to Zechariah 9:9, and it says, Zechariah says, your king is coming to you lowly, riding upon an ass, upon the coat of an ass, Zerubbabel. Later laid it on JC and got you thinking it's JC. But that's Zerubbabel. Him, let's look at it. I'm in the King James. For the people that's latched on to the King James. So I'm in the King James, I'm in Ezra. Okay, Ezra chapter 2. Well, I'm gonna read a little bit of chapter 1. So starting at verse, this is the return of the exiles to Jerusalem. See that? Return of the exiles to Jerusalem. That's starting at chapter 1 of Ezra, verse 5. Then rose up the chief fathers of Judah and Benjamin and the priests. So what we're looking at is the same thing getting ready to happen. It's already started. So it says, then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin and the priests and the Levites with all those whose spirit God had raised to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. We just was reading that. And all they that were about them strengthened their hands with vessels of silver, with gold, with goods, with beasts, with precious things besides that was willingly offered. Also, Cyrus king brought forth vessels of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought out of Jerusalem, and he put them in the house of his God. Even those did Cyrus, king of Persia, bring forth by the hands of Mithra and the treasurer, and numbered them to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. So the Sheshbazzar is a prince of Judah, but he got a Chaldean name. So just like Daniel, Belteshazzar was his captain name, but his Hebrew Israelite name was Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They got a captive name. So this is Zerubbabel's captive name right here in Ezra chapter 1, verse 8. So he came out and gave all the gold, everything he needed to Sheshbazzar. So we keep reading. Verse 9. And this is the number of them. So he tell you all the stuff he gave him, right? My thing is this. Now we go to chapter 2. Ezra chapter 2, verse 1. Now, these are the children of the providence that went up out of the captivity. Like I said, how they got back, riding on donkeys, right? Now, these are the children of the providence that went up out of the captivity of those which had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away unto Babylon, and came again unto Jerusalem and to Judah, every one unto his city. Now here you go, verse 2, which came with Zerubbabel. See that? Came with Zerubbabel and Joshua and Nehemiah. See, all these men with him. Sarah, Barak, okay. Mordecai. Same Mordecai that was in the story with Esther. All of them coming back with Zerubbabel. So like I said before, we probably ain't never heard this before, but there it is. So Zerubbabel is the one, is king. David lineage, you got the rightful heir to the throne. So Zechariah 9, let me read it and close out. So in Zechariah 9, okay, Zechariah chapter 9. Zechariah with him too. So it says, chapter 9, verse 9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king, Zerubbabel, cometh unto thee. He is just, having salvation, lowly, riding upon an ass, upon the coat of an ass. That's Zerubbabel. So like I said, when they concocted JC at the Council of Nicaea, then they had to come back and stick him in the scriptures. This is one of the places they plugged him in at, verse 9. We didn't have nothing to do with him. And so, like I said before, these conversations that we having now is nothing new under the sun. I showed you how the Most High raised the spirit of the Levites and Israelites up back then. He's doing the same thing now. So when you hear the truth and it don't faze you, it ain't nothing new. Negroes did it back in the day. Like I said, it's like water on a duck back. But if you got ears to hear and eyes to see and discernment, you're gonna deal with it. But if you don't, it's gonna roll off like water on a duck back. And so that's why, especially now, when we see this thing manifesting itself, I mean, all I can do is read it, break it down, and then keep moving. The time ran out. But we see everything going on around us is corresponding with this. Okay? Any questions are coming? So what I was reading out of was this new complete 54 book apocrypha. You can get it. You can go on YouTube. You can get it on Amazon. And I was reading out of First Ezra. I read chapters 3 and 4. I read chapters 1 and 2 this morning. Get any feedback, comments, anything before we vacate the premises? Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, shalom, and another shalom. I see y'all. We got a clubhouse tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock my time, Central Time. So if you want to check it out, you can come, or you can. We're on YouTube on Tuesday night at 7 to 9. Like I said, I got a hotline, 337-802-0889. You got any questions, comments, anything you don't understand, we can chop it up. So with that being said, shalom. Shalom and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.